uh, in terms of priority. Arame, thank you. And I will stop here and move on to introduce our panelists for today. We have in the panelists the President Helpline Foundation, Dr. Jumai Amodu. She's also the host and brain behind this initiative. Dr. Amodu, good day to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all our participants for finding time to be with us this evening.
All right, next we have actress and director of Zomo Media, known as Rekia Ibrahim Atta. She's waiting in the wings. She's going to be joining us fully shortly. We also have on the table of panelists, educationist specialist Dr. Badewa Adejugbe Williams. She'll be joining us shortly. Let me also welcome the Director of Forecasting Response and Mitigation, Lady Florence Winigieme. I hope I got that one right. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
All right, at this point, I'm going to hand, I think, the virtual microphone to Dr. Jumai Amodu for her to take it from you. Dr. Jumai, please.
Thank you very much, Rita. Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for being with Helpline Foundation at the 65th CSW Forum. I would like to truly appreciate your patience with us as I just give a brief introduction about what we are going to do today. I'm excited to meet and welcome you all to this year's virtual CSW parade event of Helpline Foundation for the Needy Abuja. In the spirit of International Women's Day, which we celebrated on the 8th of March, I would like to congratulate and celebrate with all the courageous women who have shown the world that women can, in the midst of all the numerous challenges we face around the world, we continue to push for the education of the girl's child, because that is the grassroots for women empowerment, because these girls will become women tomorrow.
Yes.
Very well.
On the 66th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women Conference, CSW, the CSW decided to deliberate on climate change as it affects women and girls, and the empowerment of, and as it affects women empowerment and gender equality. The consequences of climate change are so numerous around us. Environmental disaster, global warming have continuously endangered the human race, and women are worse hit by the outcome of these consequences. At Helpline Foundation for the Needy Abuja, we are strongly convinced that the education of women, as well as giving them equal opportunity in leadership and decision-making processes, remains the powerful tools for nation building. It is for this reason that we decided to discuss social and economic empowerment of women and girls, and essential in environmental disaster preparedness. While acknowledging the acceptance of our veteran panelists this evening, I urge us all to participate fully during this session to make it a motivating one so that our objectives can be met at the end of our deliberation. Over the years, Helpline Foundation for the Needy Abuja have joined hundreds of NGOs across the world to deliberate on issues affecting women empowerment and leadership through the annual United Nations Commission on the Status of Women sessions. I am pleased to acknowledge our panelists, delegates, and all the participants for joining us this evening. I am positive that at the end of our deliberation, we shall indeed find a workable solution to advance the cause of rural women and end gender equality all over the world. I would like to thank you all. And as I said earlier, we should make it as engaging as possible while we wait for our other panelists to join us. Dr. Badewa is en route now. She will join us as soon as she can. And we carefully selected Auntie Florence because that is what she's doing in Abuja. She's into women empowerment. She's also into disaster management, and she will give us some insight about what she has been doing and how her activities so far can help in encouraging more women to join what she does, and also see that also end the inequality and make women to be prepared at any point in time they found themselves in a position that has any negative effect on them. Thank you very much, Rita, for always being here for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jumai Amodo, setting the tone for the conversation already. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, indeed. When we talk about the impact of all of this on women, is indeed very important. I think a good place for us to start would be to go to Dr. Florence, because I know she has a presentation ready. I think that would be a good place to start. We can take off with that, and then we'll open the conversation for the Dr. Florence.
Thank you very much, the moderator, our host, the president of Helpline Foundation. Thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate, and I thank God that I'm part of this. Well, I'm going to talk to you today, or just briefly, on the effects of disasters on women. We're all aware that disasters do not affect people equally. Wherever you go to, once a disaster strikes, you get to know that the effects of the disasters are always differently. We have available data. Like if we look at, they say charity begins at home. When we look at the Northeast, we have it on records that about 79% of the 2.5 million people that were on the IDP camps, 79% of those people are women. And why is it that it was women? Because of the women, this gender inequality that we have. There are so many things that women are deprived of. If you look at my paper presentation, I have it there, the introduction. Then I will talk briefly about what disasters are all about, what disaster is all about, and then the
Madam,
issue of preparedness.
do you want to share the slide? Do you want to share the slide so
Yeah,
Arabic can see it?
yeah, because of the time we have, I'll just pick
Speak
the
to
key
it.
points.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just pick it. That's what I want to do. So right now on my introduction, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you that charity begins at home. In the Northeast, looking at the number of people that were affected, 2.5 million were on the IDP camp because of the insurgencies that happened in the Northeast in Nigeria. Out of these 2.5, like I said, 79% were affected. And I have a picture. I don't know if you have the slide there. You see the picture, and that is the evidence that the 79% of the people on the IDP camps were women. Away from Nigeria, documented reports by Oxfam International tells us that when in 1999, when the Sendon Goke incident happened, we had 140,000 deaths. And out of these 140,000 deaths that happened in that 1999, it was a ratio of 14:1. Before you find the corpse of a man, you find 14 corpses of women. So you can see how disasters are always affecting women and girls. Let me. Okay, I would rather choose to use the female so that it will cover both women and girls. And in 2004, during the Indian Ocean tsunami, 70% of the 250,000 fatality we had were women. 70% out of the 2,050. I'm just giving you a background with evidence how women are badly affected. So we have this document here, and it's telling us that 70% out of 250,000 fatality were women. Now I'm talking about disasters. Disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or society, causing widespread human, material, economy, and environmental losses. And who is at the receiving end? The female. At all times, the female will always be at the receiving end. This is because we have to deal with climate change. Whether we like it or not, climate change has come to stay, and it will always affect us in one way or the other, especially within our environment. In our environment, we are faced with different hazards. From these hazards, it moves into disasters. And the only thing that will help us is awareness. People have to be aware. We have to educate people, especially women, children, and girls, that we are focusing on now. We create awareness because by the time you are aware of the kind of hazard you have within your environment, you prepare yourself to see how you can avoid it. If you cannot avoid it, you prepare yourself on how to mitigate it if it happens. And that is why we really have to create awareness. We have to educate our women and girls. We have to educate our children. Now, why does it affect women mostly? This is because we have biological and psychological differences. And this simply means that you end up finding out that men are more equipped. Men are more exposed. They go out, they have the opportunity to undergo one training or one drill or the other, go into simulation exercises with the belief that women are not supposed to go through such trainings. And that is what we are trying to stop. We are trying to look into that and make sure that the female are well trained. They have awareness. They are given the opportunity to be well equipped like the men too. When they are more equipped, you realize that they'll be able to face the challenges that may come with any kind of disaster. Be it natural disaster, humanly induced, is it fire incident, drought, flooding, just to mention a few. When it happens, assuming it's flooding that happens now, we have realized that a lot of men go out to train on swimming. These men train on swimming and they will not let the female go out on such training. They go out on simulation exercises, drills, and carry out all these activities without the female. And that is why when flooding happens, you realize that the woman will not be able to swim very well. On my slide, I have one of the slides which shows a woman is either she went out hogging or she was coming out from the farm and then she was caught up with flooding. She couldn't swim. One, she couldn't swim because she didn't have the opportunity to undergo the training. Two, the kind of dressing she's wearing. You see, you find women in Sri Lanka or India dressed in sari. We here in Nigeria, we're mostly dressed in our kaftans or Ankara. How can you swim with that kind of dress, that mode of dressing? If it means you running to climb a tree or to climb a hill where you'll be able to save yourself, how can you do it with your mode of dressing? That is where we have the issue of biological and physiological differences. The men are always smartly dressed and they undergo all this training. They are well aware, they are well educated, and they have the opportunity to carry out these simulation exercises. Then looking at social norms and roles, it is believed that the woman is supposed to be at home and take care of the home front, cook food, take care of the children, and do other things, without giving them the opportunity. At least when the men go out and they are educated, they should come back home and create awareness, impart that knowledge in the women, in the girl child, so that they'll be able to face any kind of challenges during disasters. Swimming, climbing of trees, climbing of hills, running. I mean, these are things that a lot of women find it difficult to do because they never had the opportunity or because of their mode of dressing. Again, the men, they are built in such a way that they have the capacity to withstand some of these challenges. Why not give the female the chance to build up their capacity? And that is why we have come to realize that during emergencies, look at the Hurricane Katrina that happened. It was realized that a lot of women and children were trapped more than the men. This is because in most cases, you find women, maybe some of them are pregnant, and in most cases, the woman will not want to leave her child behind. Some of them are running with children or maybe breastfeeding, and they may be deprived of some kind of health facilities. So all these things are the kind of things that affect women. How can they run with their children? They rather choose to stay back with their children than run and abandon their children. The men should be ready to support the female at all times and give them the opportunity to build their capacity. In Sri Lanka, it was easier for the men to survive. Why? Because they were more informed. During the 1991 cyclone disaster, it was ratio 14:1. Why was it like that? Give the female the opportunity to build their capacity. A lot of women, after disasters have happened, they find it very difficult to recover. Some of them, after losing their spouses, they move to the camps, and at the camps, they are physically abused. Other men will go out to abuse them sexually, sexual violence, domestic violence. They become victims at all times. And we are trying to see how much we can build their capacity. And that is why disaster managers, we have to come up with good policies, right policies that will be able to handle such cases. In all, we are in Nigeria. I will mention some few cases. In 2019, we had flooding in an area under Gwagwalada Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. There was flooding there, and a woman was washed out with 4 children. The husband was out on official duty. And that was how we lost 5 lives, a woman and 4 children. Among the 4 children, only one was a male. Others were all girls. They couldn't swim. It happened in their own home. That was because the house was built on a waterway. The last inferno we had in Kubwa Market, under Buhari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory in Nigeria here. A woman was badly affected. She was heavily pregnant. She was due. And on her way to the hospital, she was caught up with this inferno. And that was how we lost that woman and the child. These are some of the effects of disaster on women. And we can go on and on and again and again to talk about this. There are so many, just to mention a few. I have given you some evidence with percentage of how women are affected. Some are forced into going into early marriages because of poverty. Their parents will give out young girls at the age of 14, 15 to go into forceful marriages because they think that will help them out of the poverty level they are. Some of the girls drop out of school because of disasters. Change of networks also affects them. You are within an environment where you have already established your network with your relatives, friends, neighbors. Disaster may strike. Once it strikes, you lose contact, lose livelihood. You can imagine the inferno that happened in Kubwa market. The poor woman was selling kerosene. Unfortunately, the location was not the right location. It was under a high tension wire. And this woman was affected with 2 of her children. Why women, women, women? This is because she had little or no knowledge of what could happen by selling kerosene under the high tension. Climatic change is something that we have to handle. Climate change, we need to work on that. Excuse me. Early warning matters, and that is what we do. In FCT Emergency Management Agency, at the beginning of the year, what we start with is the joint assessment tour that we carry out with our stakeholders. After the joint assessment tour, we go out on early warnings immediately after the NIMEX predictions to make sure we create awareness, we educate residents of FCT. And the same thing is done in other states in the whole country. We have inaugurated volunteers and we made sure young girls, young women are part of these volunteers. The past 4 years, it was only boys and men. But we said no to that. We insisted that we have to create awareness of female gender so that they'll be able to be part of this enlightenment. And they will go back home and impart that knowledge in their mothers, other young women, other people that are living in vulnerable areas. Now, a lot of them are going out on simulation exercises. They carry out drills on how to swim, how to climb trees. We have encouraged some of them to go on this manual training, not to sit down and wait for their husbands or for their fathers to help them out. And that is it. So it is left for disaster managers now to come up with the right policies that will help in solving this gender disparity, putting them in place so that women and girls will know that they also have a role to play when a disaster strikes. When there are challenges within their environments, they should be able to handle certain things without waiting for their husbands to come back. I want to thank our host because she's been impacting a lot of knowledge on women and girls in the nooks and crannies of FCT. And I'm sure she's working towards going outside FCT. And we are glad that you are doing that. We really appreciate you. All the women appreciate you. And a lot of them have learned so much from you. The few of them I came across when they were talking, anytime I call them out to encourage them to be part of disaster management, to be part of our drills and simulation exercises that are ongoing, honestly speaking, they tell us a lot of what you have done. Gender inequality has to be addressed to save women from different experiences that they have during disaster that happen within their environment, within their communities, and wherever they find themselves. We need to put the right policies in place. We need to train the women and girls in our midst and encourage them to impart the same knowledge, and at the same time, make sure they are part of drills and simulation exercises without fear. Dress code matters. We have to be smartly dressed, wear comfortable shoes that will enable us to be able to run, to climb a hill, to be able to swim at any point in time. And issue of thinking that we are meant to be home to take care of the home front, that issue should be dropped. We agreed we have to take care of the home front. That's a good one, but at the same time, that does not mean that we should not be part of disaster management. That does not mean that we should not be aware of what to do when there's an outbreak of fire incident in your house while you are cooking. When you are cooking, you should be able to use the fire blanket. You should be able to operate the fire extinguishers. When you find an amateur electrician who comes to wire houses without using the correct size of the cable, you should be able to identify that. And you can only get to know that when you allow your capacity to be built. Again, indiscriminate dumping of refuse. We have to work on that too. We find out that the government will go out desilting all our drainages. But give it some few hours, you find out that people will come out with their waste and dump in our drainages. People go out to build on waterways. You find women going out to farm by the river banks. Farming activities by the river banks are discouraged. A woman was washed away in Dogongada because she was farming. When it was raining heavily, she couldn't run. And that was how this woman was washed away. So we have a lot of disasters, like I said, ranging from flooding, natural disasters, humanly induced. There are disasters that are avoidable. We need to be aware of such disasters. Avoidable disasters, like the one people who go to build on waterways, people who go to build in vulnerable locations, flood-prone areas. People who will just go out and invite a roadside electrician and say, come and wire this my house. That is, I mean, we really have to be well informed so that the impact of disasters on women and girls will be drastically reduced. When you go through the soft copy I have sent, you get to know lots and lots of it. Just to mention a few, because of the want of time, this is what I have for today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lady Florence, for that really in-depth conversation there about the topic. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're glad to know you're still in the house. So at some point when we have questions that we'd want you to react to, you'll be able to do that. The topic
Very
we're
well.
looking at, of course, thank you, ma'am, is social economic empowerment of women and girls as an essential for environmental disaster preparedness. Let me quickly go to Dr. Jumai Amodu. Can you tell me at the Helpline Foundation what you are doing about this? I hope we can get the educationists. We actually have a really well planned panel prepared. Dr. Badiwa, hopefully she can join us before we are done because we need to get her perspective on the preparedness of girls from that particular young age. But Dr. Jumai, talk to us, ma'am. What are you doing at the Helpline Foundation at other levels about this?
Thank you very much, Rita, and thank you very much, Lady Florence, for the in-depth analysis you gave. We truly appreciate it. At Helpline Foundation for the Needy, we are conscious of the fact that climate change is here with us, and a lot of educative information needs to be given out to women and girls to enable them to be prepared at all times. She told us what happened in some parts of the world and Nigeria, where women were caught napping because they didn't have the basic information on what they need to do. Their survival instinct has to be seen as something that they should know what to do part time, which is why we are in partnership currently with the FCT Emergency Management Agency to see that each time they are having any program that will empower women to know what to do in terms of disaster, they are present at that event. And they have also, in terms of empowerment, physical empowerment over the years, they have also come to our aid in terms of giving us some empowerment tools. It's not enough for you to give them the information they need in terms of disaster. What happens afterwards? There are some other skills they need to acquire to enable them become financially empowered as well. And also, some few years back, Helpline Foundation was involved in the renewable energy program in Shiro local government of Niger State. That we did. We were able to tell these women what they need to do to reduce the effect of climate change. For example, falling out, they use firewood to cook, and we know the effect of that on their eyes because doctors have told us that too much exposure to smoke can affect our eyes. So we're able to, and we're able to empower them with some skills and how they need to use this charcoal stove, not from firewood now. We have somebody that came for our expo at a time that was able to demonstrate to us how they can have some other means of cooking other than going to fall down firewood in the environment that will result in disaster in terms of climate change. When the trees are falling so much, we'll have deforestation. And government and the environmentalists are promoting a forestation program. So those are the few things we are doing. We also try, like I said earlier, we empower women every time. We are open to partnership, which is what we are doing with FEMA, like I said, and some other organization. We are also discussing with them to see how well we can arrive at what this year's theme is all about. Because if women and girls are not prepared, if disaster happens, they are the receiving end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jumai. Let me go back to Lady Florence once again. During your presentation, you made it very clear to us that minimum 70% of those affected when there is a disaster, whether it's natural or man-made, are women and girls. Because you cited from the IDP 79%, for the Indian tsunami, you said 70%, and the examples was just in that particular ratio. So majorly women and girls are mostly affected. Now, so there seems to be a cultural issue also from your presentation as a big challenge, the fact that women are not so exposed in this climb about, going out, getting prepared. You talked about dressing as well. What steps can we take to mitigate the effect of culture without being seen to be rebels? We are just asking for women's husbands to become citizens. We're still fighting to get that. So we want to know what steps can we take to get results in this area without being seen to be rebels. I'm putting that in parentheses.
Yes, thank you very much. There has to be a consultation with women affected in disaster. Once we create that forum and we have the opportunity to sit down with them one-on-one, to have a consultation with these women that were badly affected by disasters, it will go a long way. Because by the time they come out themselves to give you to share their own experiences and how they found it difficult to even recovery matters. That is where Dr. Jumai comes in. Because after disasters have happened, what we do is you now start a follow-up, a post-disaster assessment, and then you try to find out how they recover. We call it the recovery stage. Some of them, because of the trauma, some of them, they go through some kind of mental torture, especially those that were sexually abused. Some of them that lost their children or lost their spouses, or some of them that lost their livelihood. We have to think of how we are going to empower them economically. And that is where Helpline Foundation has always played a role. And if by the time we sit down to have a one-on-one consultation with women that are affected by disaster, it will help us to go a long way in policy making. Once good policies, the right policies are put in place, we'll be able to get there. We start, Rome was not built in a day. But when we had this one-on-one conversation and we carry our men along, definitely they'll get to understand. Will they enjoy sitting down to watch their wives, their daughters, their in-laws, their sisters, their mothers die during disasters? I'm sure they wouldn't want that. And that is why this forum, this Helpline Foundation, if we have another NGO and we have other organizations, the Ministry of Humanitarian and others, we put heads together and carry out this consultation, come up with a good framework, definitely we'll be able to address issues like that.
All right, Lady Florence, we know that NGO like Helpline Foundation have been able to impact hundreds of women. The figures you gave us run into millions. When you talk about those that are affected, they run into millions. Now, in terms of policy, I'm going to ask you this because you also work with the government, right?
Yes,
in terms of
please.
policies being pushed for the government to help improve the living condition of women and girls that have been victims of natural disaster, what policies are being pushed? I like that you mentioned trauma and mental health, because beyond the physical, there is the traumatic experience that they have. What specific policies are in place from the part of the government? Because these are the things that, NGOs like Helpline Foundation and others will run with as a form of support when they want to do stuff.
Most of the policies we have, you see, like FEMA is a coordinating agency. Okay. So we try to, when these policies are being put in place, we have stakeholders. We have the social workers, we have doctors, we have the emergency medical services. We're in collaboration with all of them. And at the same time, we have the relief and rehabilitation. Once disasters happen, we get to the IDPs, we go to the camp, and we make sure we put the data in place. We carry out the statistics, and then we now group them accordingly, depending on how they were affected. So these policies that that the government has put in place, we try to make sure that the different agencies, the MDAs, swing into action after every disasters. In the Northeast, I don't know if you are aware that we have the Ministry of Humanitarian, and we have an agency that is handling the Northeast IDPs. We also have NGOs like the United Nations, the UNICEF, they all go around. We have the Red Cross International, all these policies that try, every NGO has a role to play in the different policies that are being put in place.
Right, Lady Florence, thank you very much. I want to get back to Dr. Juma Amodu. I'm running through the comment section as we are discussing because we have so much time and I want to make sure we carry as many people along as possible. So if you are in the forum and you have comments and questions, feel free to drop them in the chat room. The admin is looking through and will be picking them as we go. Now we have a particular comment. I'm going to rephrase it and then I'll put it to Dr. Juma Amodu. Now some people are saying women enable climate change disasters when they use firewoods to cook. You spoke about it briefly when you spoke earlier. But what other affordable option is there for women in Africa, in Nigeria, in Abuja? At the level of Helpline Foundation, what I know you also do this exhibition when you have Made in Nigeria Expo that is being displayed, and I think I've seen something around that area. Can you talk to us about that?
Thank you very much. Like the federal government of Nigeria is conscious about this fact. And like I said, government is also particular about the afforestation program, which is why last year during the pandemic, the Ministry of Women Affairs distributed some cooking gas to women. People asked them that how will they be able to refill this gas? They also put in place machineries because it was distributed through the area, in Abuja here, through the area council chairman wives. And they told these women that they should form a cluster of cooperative because it was given to them alongside some seed money to start businesses, which means is what they can be able to sustain. And is this camp gas that they gave them. And they also came up with some models of charcoal, not bringing down our trees now. Some technologies were used. Like I said, in Shiroro local government, Helpline was involved in a project. It was a renewable energy gas cooker that was given to these women. So efforts have been made, and Helpline Foundation, after this CSW, we are going to follow up on those things that we have started to ensure that women are no longer seen as enablers, but you cannot blame them. If there are no viable alternative, like you said, what else is there for them to use? We grew up seeing our grandmothers in the village using firewood to cook. Then the global warming is not as bad as it is now, so it was acceptable. Most, if you want to build your house in some particular areas now, you are forced to pull down trees. And when these trees are pulled down, what else can they use? What else can they be used for? So women in those communities can be forced to use them. But what we're encouraging is to see that all these alternatives that are coming up are produced and distributed at a very subsidized cost. So government has a role to play by coming in to see how they can invest money, train these women like it was on in Shiro local government, how they can use the local materials within their environment to come up with this source of cooking that will be health friendly and environmental friendly as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Jumai. I'm going to throw this one open and see whichever one of you jumps on it to answer it for us. And I'm drawing this from the presentation that Lady Florence made. You talked about the fact that there's lack of awareness and education is actually key. Now, Dr. Badewa is here to join us, so I'm just going to leave it to the two of you, for any one of you to try to jump on this for us. How possible is it for disaster, what was the word, fitness and a preparedness skill to be introduced into our schools? For instance, Lady Florence, swimming, the athletic activities that students get involved in, can we include swimming and judo and self-defense in all of this and make it compulsory for girls in schools?
Yes, right now, what we have done, we have a program we call Catch Them Young. We go to schools on sensitization. We have gone around almost all the schools in FCT. It's ongoing. When the school is in session, we carry out sensitization in schools, and we have encouraged them to form disaster management clubs in their schools. And we're trying to see how this can be included in the curriculum. The scheme of work, there should be a scheme of work that we include issue of the swimming aspect. Already we know that there are a lot of schools that have they have manual in schools. They have put that in place, and you know, with that they learn. So in manual, you learn swimming, you learn how to climb trees, how to use ropes, how to escape from any kind of disaster. Manual has the curriculum of Manuwobi is very, very, very vast. It's very wide, and they learn a lot. So we have taken that project. I think we started in 2018, and that is why I'm saying that we have almost gone to all the schools in the FCT to carry out this sensitization. And it has to do with drills and simulations. We do that, we do the practicals. After talking to them, we carry out practicals. How they can escape, we call it evacuation drills. Once there is a fire incident, or if there's flooding, we do all these things, we put them through. And how they can avoid the avoidable disasters, how they can avoid them, we put them through all this. So we have been doing that. That is why we say we call them, we catch them young. And we have always told them at any point in time, we tell them disaster management is everybody's business, including children that are of school age. And after every disaster, what we do, we also go around the IDP camps to make sure we enroll children that are of school age. It's part of empowerment. And we try to tell them that after school, if you want to learn a vacation, just any trade, you go around, just tell us what you want to do. We are in collaboration with JICA. JICA goes to the camp, they go to the IDP settlement, they teach them how to produce soap, this soap making, rice padding, and other things. They try to empower them. It's part of empowerment. And I tell you, when you go to the IDP settlement where we are carrying out these empowerment programs, you will see that a lot of women and girls are the ones that show keen interest.
Lady Florence, I'm glad you talked about that, because we need to also realize that not all the children that are of school age are in school. So there has to be a way to reach those ones that are not in school, while you also, talk to those who are in school already. We want to be, yes.
Sorry, I will just add by saying that it is also good that more awareness is carried out so that parents will also encourage their children, because I know a lot of parents who forbids their children from going to swimming. And if you don't encourage your children to swim, how will they be able to survive in case they are faced with a disaster, like she said, in Gogolada area council? So there are responsibilities that parents also have to play in ensuring that the awareness you're talking about is widespread. They should, if they are not in school, like you said, what other alternative do they have to get this information? So at community level, they should be able to form themselves into clusters to see how they can informally talk to themselves on how they can be protected in case they are faced with disasters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, let me just add a little to that.
Just hold on, Dr. Lily
Okay.
Florence, please, just a second. Before you jump in, I want to just say that we have participants from other countries in the room with us, and I would like for us to also hear their own perspective on the subject. So I will wait, by show of hand, if you just raise your hand, I will have the admin admit you in so that you can share your perspective about this from your own country. Yes, please. We have Jessica, Jim. Just let us know. Raise your hands, and then the admin would bring you in to speak about Kathy. Let me know, Stewart, if you want to say something. Lady Florence, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. What we do in most cases, when we go to area councils to carry out this sensitization, we go to the Emirs Palace or the ESU, and we do it by representation. That was before COVID. We do it there. We have where every ward every ward in that area council will be represented. We have religious leaders, we have members of the youth, we have the women leader. They all come in there, and then district heads, all the Meangwas, town criers, we put them together and create awareness, educate them. And we tell them that they should go back, when they go back to their respective communities, they will in turn impart that knowledge in them, which they are doing. We have volunteers, we have local divers, we have these town criers. We have put them together and we train them from time to time, so that when COVID struck, it was the town criers and the volunteers that we had that we invited, just a handful, and then we trained them, and then they now went back to their respective communities and impart that knowledge in them. And
So
we insisted
that relationship.
Yes, we carry people at the grassroots along. That is why we made sure that women were also represented.
Right. Okay, Lady Florence, we have a question from the chat room and it's directed specifically to you. It says, are you in any way partnering with instructions of higher education to assist with programs that can help to mitigate disaster crisis? Are you partnering with higher education? Heta, we'll bring you in. Is that Hita? Okay, we have a hands up. Admin, please, if you admit that person soon after Lady Florence responds to this question. Are you partnering with higher education program, or rather, yes, with higher education to assist with programs that can help to mitigate disaster crisis?
Yes, we are in collaboration with the Center for Disaster Management in ABU. We also have another in Mina. Then we have in that there's a fire, the Federal Fire Service Institute along Gwagwalada Road around Sheda. There's a Center for Disaster Management there. We always go on study tour there, and when we go, what we do is we carry out assessment and evacuation drills and simulation exercises within such communities. And Lagos, Lasema, they do the same thing in their own axis, in the country, in different geopolitical zones. That is what we do, and we encourage SEMAs, other SEMAs, to go ahead and do the same thing. They should go out on study tours to all these higher institutions and encourage them, when they go out on this Center for Disaster Risk Reduction studies, they go out on simulation and exercises, and they do it, they inform the community, that within the community where it will take place, they make sure they carry out the practicals and carry the community members along.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Can we hear from Zihita? I think. I hope I'm calling your name correctly. Can we have us speak or him?
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather.
Hey, okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Please,
so much.
First of all, country you are from?
Thanks so much. I'm calling from South Africa, from Cape Town.
Okay,
and
good.
I would like to, first of all, applaud Dr. Florence for the magnificent work that they've already rolled out. Just in conversation of what she's saying, I'm listening to so many things that is being rolled out, and basically want to know what is needed to upscale that. Because if we look at advocacy, they are doing that. If we look at things to be rolled out in schools, they are doing that. And then when she speaks about association, is it not maybe the time, Dr. Florence, to look at more stakeholder engagement so that we can strengthen your hand to do more for what you are doing already? We don't want to have a situation where wheels are being reinvented. And I think I speak from a point of a water organization where we have climate change as a top priority in South Africa. And also saying to you, Dr. Florence, that there is a little bit of more information and technology within the greater spectrum of other countries that has done these kind of things. And if I can mention one, it's what we call water warriors, where high school kids or kids of the age of 15 and plus, they formulate little hubs and they advocate and they bring awareness on a day-to-day basis about what we are speaking about. So that's just what I wanted to share with you, and I'll be sharing my information. You're welcome to have a conversation further after this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Heather. That's definitely a very incisive one. Dr. Florence, you want to jump on that? More stakeholders involvement, and I love the example of the water warriors.
Yeah, yes, example of water warriors. That's what we call the local divers in FCT here. Local divers are water warriors, and we have our rescue officers, our rescue team. They are also divers, but there are villages you go to that they'll tell you, don't go into a river. Whatever happens to you, you ask for it. So what we did was in all the 6 area councils, we have local divers drawn from each community. We have almost 6,000 of them that we have trained, and we call them for meetings quarterly. The same thing with the town criers, the same thing with the volunteers, same thing with the vanguards, and then the local emergency committees. Talking about the stakeholders. We have stakeholders and we meet quarterly, that is 4 times in a year. And when something happens, once there is a distress call, we activate all our stakeholders, and then we allow the lead agency to come up. There's good synergy. And what I would like to let you know here, that the presidency has come up with a doctrine that we call it the National Doctrine on Crisis Management or Counter-Terrorism. So, disasters of any kind, they have brought stakeholders together at any point in time, quick response, timely response, and then how they work together with everybody knowing his or her own role to play. So that national doctrine speaks about synergy, collaboration, effective collaboration to save lives and properties. So we have all our stakeholders we put in place, and we meet 4 times in a year.
Okay, I like what is going on in the chat room. I like what is going on in the chat room. Conversations are ongoing there. So yes, we can actually possibly have the water warrior example replicated in parts of Nigeria. So I'm already seeing emails being exchanged, so conversations can go further after now. We'll see how we can hook up with Helpline Foundation and talk more about that particular one. Thank you so much. In the chat room there, I see you, Fumi. Okay, so if you have questions, you can put them there. And Josimu Dashiru, did you want to say something? If you do, you can just raise your hands up and we'll take that, because I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure that we respect that and not overrun our time. Okay, Josie, did you want to say something? Okay, you said one of the things you said, I noticed that we don't really have enough women as divers and rescue workers. What is FEMA doing about that? FEMA is the FCT Emergency Management Agency. Just said we don't have. He said we don't have enough women divers. You know, there is a cultural thing about sometimes a man should not be involved when it's supposed to be women you're rescuing. How do you hold them? Well, it's sad that in 2022 we're having this conversation, but it is our reality. So she's asking is that we don't have enough women divers and rescue workers. What is the FCT Emergency Management Agency doing about that, ma'am?
Yes, we're already on that. If you look at the statistics we had in 2019, we had very few female disaster managers. Assuming we had only about 20%, this year, 2022, we have almost 60% female in disaster management in FCT, in FCT Emergency Management Agency. We have a lot of paramedics. We have a lot of paramedics put in place. The divers, the last meeting we had quite a large number of, I think we had almost 50% of the divers that came for that meeting were women, were female. They were female. And they are becoming more interested. And I mentioned it here. I said, even the town criers that we had, we used to have only male town criers during the COVID. But last year, during 2019, COVID-19, we had only male in all the villages we went to. But last year, we had almost 40% of the town criers were women. And they were women that were doing it singing. They were singing to create awareness, and it attracted attention. A lot of people came out. I also want to let you know here that we have a website. FEMA has a website. We do our sensitization. We have jingles in 5 languages. We have in English,
I know
Hausa,
that's for sure about
Igbo,
the jingles.
good, Yoruba, and Bagi. And we try to use media that goes to the grassroots at all times. We use social media a lot. We use printed media too. And right now, we have 6 warning signs in strategic locations, especially the flood-prone areas. We have done that. And in locations where they dump refuse indiscriminately, we have made sure we fix our volunteers. We have volunteers that have been stationed in all these places. Our main problem now is, the main problem we have is that these scavengers, sometimes they go to uproot these signs that we fix in strategic locations. But we are trying to find a way out. Our volunteers have made up their mind that they'll be on the lookout. They'll always be on the lookout to see who will come to destroy the warning signs we have put in place.
Okay, the people I wish I can deal with now is the network that have sort of excluded 2 of my panelists because there are key questions I really wanted Rikia Ibrahim Atta to attend to. But I'm going to try and pose one of the questions I wanted to ask one of the panelists to you. And this is nothing that has to do directly with the FCT, Dr. Florence and Dr. Juma. You might also want to chew in on this. Now, in Nigeria, we have states that are in the riverine region. They suffer a great deal of oil spillage and water pollution. These are not so much of natural disaster, but it takes away their livelihoods, right? Because when the water is polluted, they cannot go fishing, they don't have access to clean water. It has taken away their livelihood and source of maintenance from many women primarily, because if you look at it, women are the ones who do some of this little to go fishing and farming and things like that. How can we help? What can be done? I don't know. Helpline Foundation, well, is doing a lot in the FCT and beyond. Of course, maybe we can look at collaborations with other organizations in that area and the government as well. You are with the FCT, I know, but if we look at it at a national scale, what can be done for women who suffer from this unfortunate reality and they are turned into something and turn this whole thing into something that can empower them?
I'm aware that the Ministry of Women Affairs
So
are
Dr.
doing
Juma
something,
is trying to
and I know
talk.
we have a lot. Oh, okay.
No, you can go
Okay.
ahead while they're on mute, Dr. Juma. Sister Florence,
No,
please
no,
go.
no. Okay. You see, I'm aware that Ministry of Women Affairs is working on something like that, especially in the riverine areas. And I'm aware we have a lot of NGOs like that of the Helpline Foundation. I'm aware JICA is into things like that too. And that was why we came up with the WASH, UNICEF, and United Nations. They're doing things, they're really going deep into that to see what they can do. And the federal government is actually working on it. Ministry of Humanitarian is also doing something. That's the little I can say about that. Because
Okay,
that's
Dr. Mike.
not my own
Oh.
jurisdiction.
Lady Florence's
I
network
am
is,
of the FCT. Thank
okay.
you.
Dr. Juma, let's hear from you.
Is she
If
gone?
Ezinwa is in the house, I'm going to have her speak soon after we hear from Dr. Juma, please. You need to unmute yourself, ma'am. Dr. Juma, can you please unmute?
I have done that. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yes, we can hear you.
She has mentioned most of the things most of the measures are in place. We are all aware about the Ogoni cleanup exercise that the federal government commenced some years ago, and a lot of activities are going on there. What is happening to them in the oil producing area is man-made, like you said. Concerted effort has to be put in place to ensure that the place is cleaned up. And when it's cleaned up, the possibility of it reoccurring again should also be checked, so that after the cleaning up, we don't have the same problem reoccurring again. So that is what they are doing. More advocacy from NGOs, from community leaders, from various pressure groups has to be sustained. If it's sustained, and the women in those communities, like I saw recently on television, acting a script of what is happening in their community, that way the message will be passed properly, and all those who are concerned are needed to act actions that will act to enable us go by this particular problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jumai. Sister Josie Mudashiru has done some work around afforestation as well. I think you want to jump in on there. Let's get a take from you. And I think if he is also waiting in the wings, we'll take those two interventions back to back. Who's going first? Sister Josie, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Good
ma'am.
evening.
Concerning the cleanup exercise in the riverine areas, I think we still need more advocacy, and the advocacy should not only be targeted at the people, but the companies working there. Because Dr. Jumai said we should look at a way that the problem will not reoccur.
Exactly.
But I don't see how that problem will go away, because most of the cleanup that is going on is the effects of the oil drilling, the crude oil. And that is what is affecting the water, the riverine areas. And that is why, they are mainly fishermen and farmers around, and now they can't do that because the water is polluted. I've actually been there. I've seen what is going on there, and it's quite saddening. So I think the government really need to talk to the companies that are involved in drilling oil, so that once you are through with a particular place, you ensure that you clean up, rather than leave it for long. Just like the issue of gas flaring that we have been talking about, it's been going on and on. Yes, there should be a policy in that regard. And that is the only thing that can put a stop to it and make the community, to develop. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Josie. Dr. Jofia, thank you for your comments in the chat room. Ify, are you ready to speak to us now? Thank you. Thank you, Rising Africa. Thank you very much. Ify, are you ready to talk to us now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Echoes Africa. I can hear you echoing loud.
I'm sorry, my video is off. It's still early hours here. Not early hours, but it's evening, and kids have just returned from school.
Okay.
So like I said in the chat room, it's really an important conversation to be had. But more importantly, we need to borrow from best practices in Africa and Nigeria specifically, because what has worked in other parts of the world should be emulated. For instance, in terms of preparedness, it's sad that in 21st century, we are still talking about women preparing women. When, for instance, here in New York, my 5-year-old, when she was 3 in her classroom, they prepared them for potential disasters. In the schools, each child had a backpack packed with dry food. You put everything, they tell you once something, you hear an alarm and they tell you pick up the backpack, that's the only thing you pick. They take them through fire alarm drill, different, sometimes the fire alarm just goes off. And then they tell the kids, what do you need to do? Everybody runs, so they tell you where to go to, you go out, everybody evacuated. Not that anything happened, but they're preparing 3-year-olds. They're preparing them just in case something happens. So it's a good thing that Helpline works with secondary, primary schools. We should start at that level as well. While we are dealing with the women, while we're preparing the women, we should also prepare the kids. It should be integrated into our everyday life.
Schools.
People should be prepared. Schools everywhere. People should be prepared for disaster. I mean, disaster happens everywhere. Even here in America, it happens. But people should be prepared so that we don't lose too many lives that we shouldn't lose when things like that happen. That's just my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ify. And Josie is concurring with you. Preparedness is first step in disaster management. Prevention is always a better. So what can we do to prevent this thing? That's early education of creating awareness. Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, Helpline Foundation for the Needy Abuja did pull up a very, very well balanced panel until the network showed up. We had an educationist on our panel, and she was supposed to speak to these key issues, what the education sector is doing in this area and whether it's happening already or not. As an event compare myself, the one thing I do check for when I get into any event environment is, where is the exit? How do people get out of this place if anything happens? What is, we need to be conscious of these things no matter the level. Where when we get into a space, whether it's a bus or whether it's a car, as a lady, you're looking around and asking yourself, if something goes wrong, how do I get out of here?
Very well.
You must think that way no matter what space you find yourself in. How do I get out of this place? But when it's a natural disaster, well, sometimes it's outside of our control. Then preparedness in different areas is what comes in. I'm going to go back to my panelists because I'm seeing the time blinking at me gradually, that we are using up our time. I'm going to give my panelists, that's if there is no one in the chat room again, we want to be sure we are fair to all concerned. We are glad you took out the time because this is like a global setting. I have people from different time zone here, and some of us are awake when we should be asleep. So we really appreciate that you made out time to join this conversation. So if you have a penny, a cent of an opinion you want to put in, we would love to hear from you. NGOs are the ones spearheading this awareness, but it is not enough. It should be inculcated into our school curriculum, says Josie Mudashira. I totally agree with you. Names iPhone. Your name is not on display. Your hands are up. Can my admin please unmute Name's iPhone to just weigh in for 1 minute before I go back to my panelists? Hello.
Hello, my name is Nimat Abdurrahim, the Director of FCT Education Resource Center.
Oh, wow. Good to have you, ma'am.
Good to be here.
You're welcome.
Good to be here. Sorry, I can't use my video. I was already in bed when I
It's
joined.
okay.
And
This is morning.
okay. I just want to commend all the panelists. You've been so wonderful, and I've been listening attentively to all the comments, presentation, and it's been wonderful. I know Dr. Jumai has been doing a lot in this aspect, and I'm so proud of her. I just want to add in the education aspect that we are really doing all we can to see that students are sensitized, especially the girl students. And recently, we are collaborating with the civil defense because there's this stay safe school program that the education secretariat is embarking on, whereby they are collaborating with the civil defense women to see that the girls, the schools generally, apart from the girls, even the boys are, especially the girls, emphasis are laid because this group of women, this group of civil defense are actually women that are trained to handle arms. And we are looking at a situation where they are going to all our schools. They were in my office last week, and I'm still expecting, we are still talking on how they've been going to schools, and we want to collaborate with them to see that how our children can be trained to take care of them in terms of disaster, in terms of what the girls need to do to keep themselves safe in case of attack or whatever. So the education secretariat is really on top of the issue to see that our schools are safe, and especially the girls are safe. We could curb the issue of harassment and molestation and all that. And some of the school, the problem we have in the area of, say, swimming and all that is that most of our schools don't have that facility. But we are also looking at the situation, especially I'm talking about public schools here. We are looking at, and
Private
I know
ones
that,
don't have.
and private ones too don't have idea. I know that they used to collaborate with organizations like hotels that have all that, or gym. And it's, of course, it's very, very, what the financially huge for the public school to do that right now. But I can assure you that we are taking the step at the right corner, and we are really going to see. And I actually love the idea of the last speaker, where she talked about the last
Three-year-old
speaker.
thing. One that
So
spoke
I
about.
really love. I can't hear you.
You mean the Echoes Africa that spoke about 3-year-olds being equipped on how to stay safe and get out of a space for disaster?
Exactly. And I also like the idea of when you enter a place, a gathering, the first
Yes.
thing, like she said, the first thing you think about is, in case of any disaster, in case
How
of
do I
any
leave this
emergency,
space?
how do I get out of this place? And these are some of the things that we also need to incorporate in schools. I remember sometime during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, and the schools were just reopening, we tried to expose our children to how they can stay safe, because during that lockdown there was so many harassment and molestation of the girl children during the lockdown. So some of these things, immediately we resume schools in the FCT, we try to see how we sensitize our children, how we train them on how they can keep them safe and all that. So that's just all I need to add to what has been said. They've said a lot.
Dr. Nima, this is so wonderful. We are so happy that you were able to speak up tonight or this morning, wherever time you're listening to us from. I'm speaking to the others now. And the one thing we know how to do is follow up. And I like that you have said that when school comes back, this is something you want to look into and see that it does happen in our schools as well. So we're already excited about that. Thank you so much. She's the director of the Education Resource Center. So glad to know you are awake to be a part of this. We appreciate you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony, I think I have Tony Lawa from New York still in the house, and I would like to hear from you. We are quickly trying to round off. We want to take your bit in 1 minute before we go. Dr. Tony, are you there? Tony Lawal? Okay, I think there's someone else as well, apart from Tony Lawal. Dr.
Our hands
Dimat.
are up now. Our hands are up
Okay.
now.
Admin, please, can you let her in? Can you unmute her, please? Okay, you are still muted. I think you need to unmute yourself, Tony Lawal, please.
Okay, while we are waiting, I would just like to add,
Okay.
while we're waiting for her to unmute herself, at Helpline Foundation for the Needy, Abuja, we also have the Voice of the Girls Parliament. Is a project that we started about 5 years ago to ensure that we create some sense of leadership and empowerment skills in these girls. So they've been working, and what we have been doing is that we'll add now, based on what has happened today, the need for them to be sensitized on disaster preparedness. And we've been discussing with at their meetings have been going on every month, and they meet, and these are the issues that have been coming up because they're also aware of the fact that they need to be prepared at all times. And these girls are like our champions in schools. They take out their time to be observant about their environment, which is what we are telling them at all times. You have to pay attention to what is happening in your immediate environment. If there's a girl that you notice who is not really feeling all right, we have empowered them on the skills that they need to extract information for any girl that is in danger in their school, and that they report to us, and we interface with various government agencies that need to act. That is what has been happening, and the success stories from these parliamentarians have been so encouraging, and more girls are joining them by the day. And one of our take home from this meeting is to ensure that we intensify in this sensitization campaign to ensure that these girls are empowered and prepared.
All right.
The host should unmute Ms. Tony Laura, please.
Yes, please unmute her. I want to say, I think it's the MD of Africa Rising. I'm seeing your activities in the chat room. Thank you so much for being so active and participating. Okay, Tony, you're ready now?
Yes. So thank you so much, Ms. Rita. Hi, everyone. Greetings from California.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much, Masha Jumai. We appreciate you. Thank you, Ms. Florence, and all the panelists. It has been an awesome time, very rich discussion, and just kind of like taking notes and ready for action, because we are already in the decade of action. Everything that has been mentioned, I will not repeat it. I just want to say it's time for us to take action to intensify our efforts in increasing awareness, and also to build in all these aspects of training into the school curriculum. We can't really wait for the policymakers alone. We also all need to participate on how to make this happen. Because when we wait, we have waited too long, and the time is going on and on. So let's all just work together. And I also want to encourage us that, Dr. Juma is doing a lot of good work, and the FEMA, Ms. Florence, we all need to work together. I'm here in Los Angeles. I know time is going, but I partner with some organization in Nigeria. For example, Orange organization in Lagos, we are doing Operation Clean Ajegunle. So what I'm doing is I have a widows program. So I use the orphans and the widows to participate in all those awareness, so that our environment, we all have to participate. That's just one aspect of what I do. And the other aspect of what I will encourage us to look at the health implication post-disaster, to take care of the victims, especially on mental health. There's a lot of trauma after disaster. How can we work together to help our people? Thank you so very much. I look forward to.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Toyin Lawa. I really appreciate it. I love the sound of collaboration that I'm hearing. I'm seeing a whole lot of things happening after this, particular meeting. Usman Sunday says an area of disaster preparedness is the outbreak of cholera. It's unfortunate we still talk of cholera and we are aware of the 2021 outbreak. I think this is in Nigeria, Usman. He said, I think the capacity of the women should be built to prevent and respond to cholera outbreak as a disaster. You believe that should be treated as a disaster? Of course, I totally agree with you, Usman Sunday. Nice to be part of this session. I appreciate the host. Thank you very much. Timot is the one who sent that one in. Again, the MD of Afrique Rising, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone in the chat room. This has been such and everyone is part of the conversation session. And I love that everybody is up and, engaging actively. Let me take this mantle back to Dr. Juma Amodu before we round off today. I'm going to just take a quick message here. Okay, I've done that. Please, participants should connect with us. Go to our website, please. Check our website. I think that's on the chat room. Make sure you connect with us. Follow us on social media. By us, I mean the Helpline Foundation for the Needy. Follow us on social media. We also have other sister organizations like the African Women Conference. Check us out on social media. Our website is there to know all the activities that we are involved in. Dr. Jumai, I'm looking at the time. Do we still have a couple of minutes, or should we round it off, admin? I'm getting signals from there.
We have already overshot our time by 3
Ah,
minutes.
okay. So let me call on Dr. Jumai then to give farewell notes. My name is Rita Wujewe. It has been an honor being the moderator for this particular program. Hopefully COVID will go and we can see each other face to face in New York next time. Dr. Jumai, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you very much, everybody, for being with us at this time. We don't take your continued support for granted. I will thank everybody. I see Josie, I see Dr. Chris, Tian Obo, I see Damaris, everybody that have joined, particularly Dr. Tony Lawa. She sent me her invitation. She has a side event also coming up, I think tomorrow. So we should all also join her to participate in the conversation that she's going to be leading. This conversation is recorded. We are going to harvest all the actionable points that has been raised, so we'll be able to see how well we can implement them. And we also have one of our projects also outside the Voice of the Girls Parliament, the African Women Conference that have been going around African cities. It was inaugurated in New York in 2017. We are going to Egypt this year. So people should just go to our website to get all the information that they need, because at that conference, things that we have started discussing from here, we are going to continue the conversation at this conference, at the various sub discussions we are going to have. So I appreciate our panelists, even those ones in absentia, and most importantly, the team at Helpline Foundation that have been making all this happen. I thank you all for your volunteering work.
All our volunteers.
Auntie Florence, I thank you very much. I couldn't have made a better choice than forcing you to be on my panel. And the time was so short, and you came up with this rich presentation. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to continuous collaboration. Anytime we knock on your door, just be there for us, virtually or physically, to always contribute to whatever information that we are trying to pass out to members of the public. I thank everybody. I cannot call all of your names. The he for share. I saw Sunday Osman. He's the only man I see on this on our discussion platform today.
No, Timothy is there. We have Timothy from
Timothy Abalaka. He's actually from
Scotland.
London. Dr. Abalaka, thank you very much. Martina Ibrahim, she has gone. So everybody that took out time, you should have been sleeping by this time because of the time difference, but you are awake to be with us. We appreciate your presence. And next year, God's willing, will give you a feedback of all the actionable actions that we have taken from this conversation. Thank you very much, everybody. So we'll see you either physically or virtually next year in New York City. But before then, mark your calendar to be with us in Egypt in October this year. Thank you very much for the African Women Conference. I cannot go without appreciating the co-convener of African Women Conference, Ifoma Ezinwe, the ECHOS Africa initiator, founder, and everything in New York. Thank you very much. everybody. Josie, Sarah, I see all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Au revoir. Au revoir. We can play a song if we are still here. Anybody
Yes.
ready to